I'd like to share with you what is to my mind the most powerful Chassidic story I've ever heard and made such a deep impact in my life. I might digress for a minute or two longer than usual in our 2-minute Torah in order to share the story and connect it to the powerful transformative Chag of Sukkot. The story is either taught in the name of the Baal Shem Tov or the Kotzker Rebbe. And it's a story about a Chassid who so desperately wanted to encounter Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. He wanted to meet the source of spirituality itself, an angel amongst men, Elijah. And he went to his Rebbe and said, Rebbe, I want to meet Elijah. The Rebbe thought and said, not everybody will merit to meet Elijah, but you know what? If you go across the forest for a journey for 4 days and you spend Pesach with a particular family in a particular village, perhaps you will merit to see Elijah. The Chassid couldn't contain himself. He gathered his family together, packed the wagon, and off they went to spend Pesach 4 days across the village, across the forest, went to the village, asked where this particular family lived, and they pointed him in that direction. He knocked on the door and he said, "Hi, I've been sent to spend Pesach together with you." And the woman, a widow, said, "I'm sorry, I actually cannot have you. I've got nothing to give you. I've barely got food for our own family." The Chassid said, "Don't worry. I've come with so much bounty and we're going to eat like we've never eaten before." She said, "I don't have anywhere for you to sleep. I don't have mattresses." "Don't worry, I brought mattresses." And they lovingly come into the home, and it comes to the first night of the Seder, and of course the time where we open the door to meet Eliyahu Navi, Shvoch HaMetcha. The door is open and the Rebbe says, the Chassid says at least, "Allow me." And he runs to the door, expecting to see Eliyahu Navi with Eliyahu's kos and place at the table. And he opens the door, and nobody is there. The same thing happens the next night. The Chassid hasn't seen Eliyahu. He goes back full of disappointment, and he goes to see his Rebbe. And the moment the Rebbe sees the face, the Rebbe says, "I see that you did not see Eliyahu Navi. Not everybody merits to meet Elijah the prophet." Weeks turn into months, months pass by. The Chassid comes back to the Rebbe. "Rebbe, I crave to meet and to see and to experience Eliyahu Navi." The Rebbe said, "Not everybody merits this experience. Come back in a few days and I'll tell you what to do." The Chassid returns. The Rebbe says, "I want you to go back to the same family and spend Yom Kippur with them. And perhaps this time you will merit in meeting Elijah the prophet." The Chassid can't contain himself. The same thing, gathers the family, goes across the forest and to the end of the village. And as he's about to approach the house, he hears the following conversation. He hears the mother crying and saying to her boy, "You have to fast this Yom Kippur, please." And the son says, "I'm not fasting this Yom Kippur. There's famine in this house. Every day is like Yom Kippur. We have nothing to eat. I'm not fasting." And the mother is crying and she's saying to him, my son, what would your father in heaven, what would Abba say, what would your Tata say if he knew that you weren't fasting? And he answers, "Our Tata is no longer with us. And besides, every day is like a Yom Kippur. I cannot fast this time around." And he's crying and she's crying. And everyone's shouting at each other and everyone is crying. And the Rebbe doesn't know the Chassid doesn't know what to do. And as he's about to knock on the door, he hears the young daughter say, she says, "Mama, do you think Hashem will send us Elijah the prophet the way he did last Pesach?" The Rebbe understands. He is Elijah to this family. He knocks on the door with tears in his eyes. They are singing and dancing when they see him. The family ate a Suda Mafseket like they'd never eaten before. They celebrated Yom Kippur like it had never been celebrated. And they broke the fast together in singing and dancing after Yom Kippur. When the Chassid returns with his family to the Rebbe, the moment the Rebbe sees him, the Rebbe knew. He says to him, "My dear Chassid, I wanted you to understand the following spiritual principle, that life is not about you meeting Eliyahu Navi. It's about you being Eliyahu Navi. It's not about your personal, egotistical spiritual experience of being one with a spiritual individual. It's about you being selfless, giving of yourself. Indeed," said the Rebbe, "you can be to specific people in your life, in your surroundings, to them in a way that only Elijah the prophet can be. You can bring happiness, you can bring rejoicing, you can bring redemption, you can touch people's lives in a way that only you can in your specific circumstances." And the Rebbe was teaching that each and every one of us can and should, instead of wanting to be spiritually egocentrical, to be spiritually selfless, how we can go touch and change the lives of others. As we come into Sukkot, the Chag of Simcha, the Rambam teaches us based on a verse, the famous pasuk we all know in Parashat Re'eh, in chapter 16 in Dvarim. It says, we all know, "V'samachta b'chagecha," and afterwards, V'hayita ach sameach, we must be happy and only happy in this day regarding the festival of Sukkot. And amazingly, the Gemara and the Rambam point out who has to be happy. V'samachta b'chagecha, ata u'vincha u'itecha, v'avtecha v'ancha, all the members of your family, and then v'halevi, v'hager, v'yatum, v'almana, and also those who may not have a home, who may not have property like the Levi, the ger, the convert, the orphan and the widow, many who might feel a little bit sidelined in society. Says the Rambam, the mitzvah of shalmei simcha, the special korban of simcha to partake on Sukkot, is only a korban of simcha when it's shared with those who may not have a yontif meal. Because simcha is not about how happy we feel internally. It is about how much we exude it. Simcha poretzet gvulot, how many people we include in our feeling of simcha, to touch those who perhaps happiness has perhaps not visited them as much as it has to each and every one of us. And I want to wish us all, as we enter into Sukkot 5777 at the beginning of this year, that this should be a time of all of us to include under our sukkah those who may not have a sukkah or may not have the happiness that we have in our sukkah. Because after all, life is not about being, or life is not about meeting Eliyahu Hanavi. It is about being Eliyahu Hanavi, not about being selfish, about being selfless and touching the lives of others in a way that only Eliyahu Hanavi could. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach.